If you've ever felt like the odd one out in your own family, you'll understand me before I even speak a full sentence. My name is Lily Harper, and I grew up in a house where silence had weight, where glances meant more than words, and where I learned early that I existed a little outside the edges. Not unwanted. Not unloved exactly. Just, out of place. If I laughed too loud, my mother winced. If I cried, my father sighed. If I needed something, my siblings rolled their eyes. I became the girl who apologized for things before they even happened. Then life moved on, as it always does. I built my own quiet existence, work, a small apartment, a gentle routine. I didn't ask for much, and maybe that was my mistake. Because when my grandmother died, the one person who made me feel seen, my family treated me like a piece of extra furniture. Present, but irrelevant. There, but unnecessary. The day after the funeral, we gathered in my uncle's living room, where everyone whispered about the estate like it was gossip instead of grief. My grandmother, Margaret Harper, was a woman of quiet power. She never bragged. She never raised her voice. But she understood money. She understood business. She understood people. And she understood me. I didn't know then how much she understood. Not until the sealed envelope. But before that moment came, the cruelty unfolded slowly, intentionally. We were sitting in the living room, my aunt humming nervously, my uncle pacing, my siblings scrolling through their phones like the reading of a will was an inconvenience. I sat quietly in the corner, hands clasped tightly in my lap. My older sister, Jenna, glanced at me with a smirk. "You know you're not in the will, right?" My stomach sank. "What?" She shrugged casually. "Grandma said you didn't need anything. That you were taken care of." Taken care of. The phrase pierced deeper than she knew. My younger brother added, "Yeah, she talked about splitting everything between us. You shouldn't get your hopes up." I blinked hard, swallowing the sting in my throat. I wasn't expecting anything. And I meant it, I truly did. Grandma had already given me more love than anyone else in that room ever had. But the dismissal burned. The certainty in their voices. The joy they seemed to take in excluding me. My aunt chimed in, too quickly, "It's nothing personal, sweetie. You know your grandmother was practical." I nodded slowly. "Right. Practical." My uncle cleared his throat. "We'll hear everything officially from the judge tomorrow." "But, yes. The family already knows how things are divided." Something twisted inside me. Confusion. Hurt. A flicker of suspicion. "How do you know?" I asked quietly. Jenna rolled her eyes. "Because Grandma talked to Mom about it last year. She said she didn't want to burden you with financial responsibility." Burden. The same word Daniel once used for Charlotte. The word people use when they want you to feel small. I stared at the rug, trying to steady my breathing. They didn't stop. My brother added, "Honestly, it makes sense. You're too sensitive for this kind of stuff. Grandma probably thought you'd just stress out." My jaw tightened. "I'm capable of handling things." Jenna snorted. "Sure, Lily. We saw how you panicked trying to organize the funeral flowers. You're not exactly made for pressure." She said it loudly, laughing. The others laughed too. I felt my face grow warm, the humiliation sinking deep. I looked at my hands, blinking back tears. I didn't want to break in front of them. Not again. So I stayed silent. Silent as always. But something inside me knew, Grandma would never speak about me like that. Not her. Not the woman who held my hands through every heartbreak. Not the woman who taught me how to breathe through panic. Not the woman who said my heart was a compass, not a flaw. Something wasn't right. When I left that night, the cold air outside felt like relief. I walked to my car, gripping the steering wheel before driving home. My chest hurt the entire way. That kind of hurt that sits behind your ribs and whispers old memories you thought you'd buried. But the next morning changed everything. The courthouse. I arrived early. The courthouse smelled like old paper and polished wood, strange, but somehow comforting. The judge, a calm man with silver hair and thoughtful eyes, greeted us kindly. My family filed in confidently, almost eagerly. They sat in the front row like they already knew they were the chosen ones. I sat behind them, alone. The judge opened a thick file, adjusting his glasses. We are here regarding the estate of Margaret Harper. Before we begin, I must clarify something. Everyone straightened. There are 2 documents, he continued. One general will, and one sealed personal letter addressed to one specific family member. Whispers rippled through the room. Jenna leaned back with a smirk. Probably for Mom, she whispered loudly. I looked at the floor. The judge held up the sealed envelope. Old-fashioned paper. My grandmother's handwriting. And a wax seal. Everyone stared at it with anticipation. Then the judge said, "This envelope is addressed to Lily Harper." The room froze. I felt my breath stop, literally stop, like my lungs forgot how to work. Jenna turned slowly toward me. My aunt gasped. My brother muttered, "What? That can't be right." The judge cleared his throat. It is clearly written. And per Margaret Harper's instructions, this envelope must be opened in court, and its contents read aloud. My mother whispered, "Oh my God." Everyone stared at me like I had stolen something, like this must be a mistake, a glitch, an accident. But my grandmother didn't make mistakes. The judge broke the wax seal. My heart pounded so loudly I could feel it in my teeth. He unfolded the letter. The room leaned forward. "Dear Lily," he began. My eyes filled instantly. Before I begin, the judge added softly, "I want to note that this letter is written entirely in Margaret's handwriting. Verified and notarized." The weight in the room shifted. I felt my mother grip the bench, breath trembling. Jenna crossed her arms, jaw tight. My uncle whispered, "What is happening?" The judge continued reading. But before the words filled the courtroom, something inside me already knew. Grandma had seen me all along. She had known everything. She had planned everything. And this sealed envelope was about to change the entire room. The judge held the paper gently, almost respectfully, the way someone holds something fragile and irreplaceable. My grandmother's handwriting, those looping letters, the steady slant, felt like a ghost reaching across the room. He took a slow breath, then read, "Dear Lily, if you are hearing this, it means I am no longer here to sit beside you and tell you the things I should have said more often. So let me say them now. You were never invisible. Not to me. Never for a moment." My throat tightened instantly. My eyes blurred. My chest ached with a sudden, sharp longing for her voice. The judge continued. "I know you grew up feeling left out. I know you felt smaller than the others, even though your heart was the largest of all. And I know you were told many unkind lies about your worth, not because they were true, but because some people feel bigger when they make others feel small." I heard my sister inhale sharply. My brother shifted uncomfortably. My aunt looked down at her shoes. My grandmother had seen everything. Every bruise that wasn't physical. Every silence that hurt more than yelling would have. Every lonely moment I swallowed growing up in that family. You think I didn't see it, Lily, but I did. I saw how they dismissed you. I saw how you folded yourself smaller to stay out of their way. I saw the way you tried so hard to earn a place you already deserved. A tremor ran through me. The judge's voice softened. So I am leaving this sealed letter not to shame anyone, but to protect you in the only way I still can. Because you were the one who visited me without being asked. You were the one who brought flowers on the days I pretended not to feel lonely. You were the one who held my hand when my memory slipped. You were the one who stayed. That matters. More than you know. I pressed my palms against my knees to steady myself. A tear slid down, then another. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready to hear love spoken so plainly. Not in front of people who never offered it to me. The judge looked up briefly at me, then continued. There is something else you need to know. I did not discuss my will with anyone, not your mother, not your aunt, not your siblings. Anything they told you was not from me. It was from their own assumptions, their own fears, or their own hopes. I felt every head in the row ahead of me stiffen. I want the judge to read the rest of this aloud so it is clear, without distortion or misinterpretation. My uncle whispered, "This is ridiculous, she wouldn't write something like this." But she did. She did because she knew exactly who she was dealing with. The judge cleared his throat and continued. Lily, you have always carried kindness the way others carry shields. You never used it to your advantage, never weaponized it, never asked for anything in return. You were overlooked because you were the easiest one to overlook. That was not your fault. My breathing trembled. Someone behind me sniffled. I wasn't sure if it was me. So I have made certain decisions that might surprise everyone in this room. I did not choose based on birth order. I did not choose based on tradition. I chose based on love, loyalty, and presence. The tension in the room tightened like a rope. Jenna whispered harshly, "What does that mean?" My brother muttered, "There's no way, Grandma, no way she actually," but the judge lifted a hand gently for silence. Then read, "Lily, my dear, everything with my name on it has also been placed in yours. My accounts. My savings. My home. My investments. And the personal items you always admired but never asked for. You are not receiving the leftovers. You are receiving what I intended." The room erupted. What? Jenna shot up from her seat. "This has to be a joke," my brother barked. My aunt gasped loudly, hand over her chest. My uncle stood up, furious. "Judge, this must be wrong. That's impossible. She barely talked to Lily." The judge remained calm. "Please sit. All of this is notarized and legally valid." My mother, who had been silent the whole time, whispered, "She gave everything to Lily." Her voice cracked in a way I had never heard. The judge wasn't done. "I know this decision may upset others. That was unavoidable. But I also know they will understand in time. Love is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, persistent. Sometimes it is found in the one person who never asks for anything but gives everything. Lily, my love, this is not a reward. It is recognition. It is safety. It is my final protection for you." I felt the room disappear. The wooden benches. The murmurs. The tension. All I could hear was her voice in those words. Her warmth. Her certainty. The judge folded the letter carefully. "There is more." Everyone leaned forward again. He read the final lines, "To my family, do not blame Lily. Do not resent her. If you feel anger, let it be brief. If you feel jealousy, let it pass. The truth is simple, she was there for me. Were you?" Dead silence. A silence so thick it choked the room. "Treat her well. Because in the end, she is the one who will remember me the truest. With love, Margaret." The judge lowered the paper. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The air had weight, heavy, undeniable, unfiltered truth settling onto every surface of the courtroom. Jenna turned around slowly and stared at me with wide, stunned eyes. Not hatred. Not anger. Shock. Fear. And something like recognition. My brother looked like someone had pulled the ground out from under him. My aunt looked pale. My uncle whispered, "I can't believe this, but I could." Because my grandmother had always seen me. Quietly. Fully. Completely. The judge placed the letter in a protective sleeve. We will now proceed with the formal distribution of the estate according to Margaret's instructions. My heart pounded, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Validation. Worth. A place that was finally, undeniably mine. My grandmother had spoken from the grave. She hadn't just given me her belongings. She had given me my voice back. And I wasn't going to give it away again. The judge's words hung in the air like a bell still vibrating long after it had been struck. No one knew how to breathe. My family sat frozen, as if moving would make the reality harder to deny. The truth had always been there, hiding in the corners where love lived quietly. My grandmother had simply opened the windows and let the light fall exactly where it needed to. The judge cleared his throat gently. Now, before we move to the distribution details, are there any questions? My uncle stood abruptly. Yes, I have a question. How do we know Lily didn't influence this? She spent more time with Mom, sure, but that doesn't justify, she didn't influence anything, the judge interrupted calmly. This was notarized over 2 years ago. 2 years. Long before Grandma's memory slipped too far. Long before she grew frail. Long before anyone suspected she was preparing the end. My aunt frowned. That can't be right. Margaret would have told us. The judge nodded. She specifically stated in the document that she intended to keep this confidential to avoid manipulation or conflict. Every head subtly turned toward Jenna and my brother. My sister scoffed. Manipulation? Really? Grandma thought we'd manipulate her. The judge didn't answer. He didn't need to. We all knew the truth already. My grandmother had known exactly which personalities she was dealing with. My mother's voice cut through the room, unexpectedly quiet. She knew. Everyone turned to look at her. My mother rarely admitted vulnerability, let alone truth that painted her in a harsh light. She knew we expected things from her, my mother whispered. She knew the others counted her money before she even died. I stared at her, stunned. I never thought my mother would say something like that aloud. Jenna snapped, Mom. Seriously? But my mother didn't stop. She also knew Lily was the only one who came every week. The only one who checked on her without being asked. The only one who didn't talk about her behind her back. And the only one who didn't wait around for her to die. Her voice trembled on the last word. A silence followed that felt like the entire room inhaling at once. My mother wasn't defending me. She wasn't attacking herself. She was just telling the truth. And the truth made her shoulders drop, as if she finally put something heavy down. The judge reached for another document. We will now outline the assets and their instructions. He began reading through the list: the Harper estate home and all associated land, 2 substantial investment accounts, her remaining savings, a vehicle, personal heirlooms, jewelry she had collected over a lifetime, boxes of letters and mementos. Every item had a name next to it. And every name was mine. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't want everything. I hadn't asked for anything. I just wanted to belong. To feel like someone saw me and decided I mattered. My grandmother had given me that 10 times over. Jenna slammed her handbag onto her lap. This is insane. Grandma wouldn't cut us out. She must have been manipulated, or confused, or, she was crystal clear, the judge said sharply. And what about fairness? My brother demanded. The judge raised an eyebrow. Fairness? Margaret wrote her will according to who cared for her. Not who shared her blood. A flush spread across my sister's face. My brother leaned back, arms crossed. So Lily gets everything, just because she showed up a few times? The judge set down his papers and looked him directly in the eyes. From the reports I have, and the testimony Margaret gave during her notarized signing, Lily didn't show up a few times. She showed up consistently. He glanced at me and gave the faintest nod. She was present. The simplicity of that word shattered something inside me. Present. Not perfect. Not controlling. Not demanding. Present. My grandmother had rewarded presence over entitlement. My uncle raised his voice. Are we supposed to just accept this? That everything is hers and we get nothing? The judge responded quietly, you can accept it. Or you can challenge it in court. But I will tell you now, you will lose. My family fell silent again. Not because they were convinced. But because the truth had cornered them. After the hearing, when the hearing ended and people began gathering their things, my mother remained seated. She stared at the floor as if something inside her was unwinding slowly. I hesitated but walked toward her. Mom? I said softly. She lifted her eyes. And for the first time, I saw something in them I had never seen directed at me. Respect. Maybe even, regret. You were always the closest to her, she whispered. I didn't know whether she meant it as a confession or an apology. But either way, it landed gently. I loved her, I said. I didn't expect anything from her. She nodded. And that's why she gave it to you. She said it without bitterness. Without jealousy. Without resentment. My sister, on the other hand, was pacing near the back of the courtroom, furious and whispering sharply into her phone. My brother stood stiffly near the wall, arms crossed, eyes dark with wounded pride. My aunt and uncle whispered frantically to each other. Everyone was reacting loudly except my mother. She simply sat still. You don't seem angry, I said. She shook her head. I'm not. I'm surprised. But I'm not angry. I waited. Then she added quietly, I think she trusted you more than she trusted any of us. And I understand why. The tears I'd held back all morning slipped out before I could stop them. Mom, she reached out and took my hand. Not for show. Not for performance. Not out of obligation. Just, because she wanted to. You deserve this, she whispered. The words felt unreal. My mother had never told me I deserved anything before. Not praise. Not recognition. Not understanding. But today, she said the one thing I had needed my whole life. I deserved something. Outside the courthouse. When I stepped outside into the sunlight, it felt like breathing fresh air after years of living in a tight room. The sky was blue, the wind cool, and the world somehow quieter. My family spilled out behind me in tense clusters. Some glaring, some whispering, some avoiding eye contact entirely. But then my brother approached. I tensed. He scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. Look. Lily, he didn't finish. He didn't apologize. He didn't defend himself. He didn't blame me. He just stood there, uncomfortable and strangely honest. It wasn't supposed to be you, he said under his breath. I know, I said gently. You all made that clear. He nodded once, shame flickering across his face. But I guess Grandma saw things differently. She did. He swallowed hard. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad that I never saw how much time you spent with her. My voice softened. I didn't do it for anything. I just loved her. He nodded again. Yeah. I know. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. As he stepped away, Jenna stormed past him and glared at me with the kind of hatred people feel when they realize the rules they relied on no longer protect them. You think this makes you special? She hissed. I breathed in slowly, calmly. No. It just means Grandma saw me. She recoiled like the truth was a slap. And maybe it was. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I didn't taunt her. I simply walked away, the sunlight warm on my face. My grandmother had spoken for me, louder than I ever could have. And that was the greatest power anyone had ever given me. I didn't go home right away. I needed a moment to breathe, to let everything settle. The courthouse steps felt like a strange place to process a lifetime of hurt and a moment of astonishing validation, but the cool stone beneath me grounded me in a way I desperately needed. I sat there quietly while the rest of my family scattered to their cars like ants kicked away from a picnic blanket. Accusations floated in the air behind me, half whispers, sharp breaths, muttered frustrations, but I didn't turn around. For once in my life, their noise wasn't my responsibility. I pulled Grandma's letter from my bag. The edges trembled in my fingers as I reread the opening lines, letting her voice wash over me again. Her handwriting felt like a hug. Her words felt like a hand on my shoulder assuring me she had seen every part of me, the parts one hid, the parts that hurt, the parts that never felt enough. It felt like being chosen. Not out of obligation. Not because I asked. But because I mattered. A shadow fell across the steps. I looked up and found my mother standing there, clutching her purse with both hands, eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. "Can I sit?" she asked quietly. I nodded. She lowered herself beside me and took a slow breath. "I've been thinking about a lot of things." I stayed silent, waiting. She looked straight ahead at the parking lot, not at me. "Your grandmother, she wasn't an easy woman. But she was fair." Another breath. "And she loved you. More purely than I think any of us understood." I swallowed hard. "I loved her too." "I know." Her voice cracked. "I think some of us took her for granted." There was a long pause. Not tense. Not heavy. Just honest. Then she added, "I'm not angry at you, Lily." That alone felt like a revelation. She clasped her hands tightly together. "I'm ashamed." My chest tightened. "Why?" She exhaled shakily. "Because I let others tell you who you were instead of telling you who you really were. I let you believe their cruelty was truth." I looked down at my hands. "You didn't stop them." "No," she whispered painfully. "I didn't. And I should have." She turned to me then, finally meeting my eyes. "You were always the gentle one. The one who felt deeply. The one who cared without asking for anything back. I thought shielding you from responsibility was protecting you. I didn't realize it was erasing you." Tears welled up again. "Mom, I can't change what was done." Her voice trembled again. "But I can acknowledge it." She looked toward the courthouse doors. "Your grandmother made her choice," she said softly. "A choice rooted in love. I don't want to be the one who ruins that for you." Her words stunned me in the best way. My mother, someone who calculated everything, controlled everything, dictated everything, was letting go. And maybe she didn't know it, but letting go was the most loving thing she had ever done for me. A shift I never thought I'd see when we finally stood to leave. Jenna was by her car on the phone, pacing like a caged animal. "No, I don't accept it," she snapped. "This is unacceptable." Grandma was manipulated. She must have been confused. "This is robbery. The judge is biased, or Lily did something, because this is insane." "No, I'm not dropping it. I'll fight it. I'm not going down without my share." Her voice carried across the lot, sharp and loud. A few people stared. When she finally noticed me near the steps, she lowered the phone but didn't hang up. "So," she sneered, crossing her arms, "you must be happy. You played the innocent little angel and now look at you." My mother stepped forward before I could speak. "Enough." Jenna froze. "What?" "Enough," my mother repeated firmly. "Lily didn't manipulate anyone. She didn't play anything. Your grandmother made a decision, and you need to accept it." Jenna's jaw dropped. "You're taking her side." "I'm taking the side of what's right," my mother said. And what's right is respecting Margaret's wishes. Jenna scoffed. Her wishes were unfair. My mother held her gaze. Her wishes were hers. Jenna didn't have a comeback for that. She stood there glaring, trembling with the kind of rage that comes from losing control, not from losing something valuable. My brother walked up then, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. Can we please not do this here? People are staring. Jenna whirled on him. You're fine with this too. You're just going to let Lily take everything? He sighed. You heard the letter. She earned it. Her eyes went wide with betrayal. Earned it? She did nothing. My brother looked at her with a tired, almost defeated expression. She did the one thing none of us did. She showed up. It was quiet for a second. Then Jenna's face twisted. You two are unbelievable. She got into her car and slammed the door so hard the mirror shook. The engine revved aggressively, and she sped off like she needed the motion to escape the truth chasing her. The parking lot was suddenly quiet again. My brother turned to me, hands in his pockets. Look. I'm still processing all this. But I meant what I said in there. I nodded. I know. He hesitated, then added, I'm glad she wrote that letter. I think it's the first time I've heard something real about you from someone in this family. My breath caught. Thank you. He gave a small nod before walking to his car. One by one, everyone left, until it was just me and my mother again. She touched my arm gently. Do you need company tonight? Her asking that felt like a bigger inheritance than anything written in a document. Yeah, I whispered. I think I'd like that. She nodded, and for once, we walked to the car side by side, not mother and daughter with a lifetime of distance between us, but two women united by a truth that had finally been spoken out loud. Back home that night, sitting in my living room with a cup of tea, I held Grandma's letter again. My mother looked around quietly, perhaps noticing for the first time how small my space was, how little I owned, how much I lived without. Maybe she realized then just how little help I'd ever been offered. You know, she said softly, your grandmother always had a soft spot for you. I smiled. I know. No, she whispered. I mean, a deep one. She told me once that you were the kind of person who gave more than you had. And she worried that one day, you'd give until there was nothing left for yourself. My throat tightened. She said that? My mother nodded. She told me she wanted to leave something behind that would make sure you were finally taken care of. I blinked through the tears. Turns out, she added with a sad little smile, she was right. The tears spilled then. The kind that burned. The kind that healed. My mother reached over and took my hand. Lily. I'm sorry for all the times I let you think you were extra instead of essential. I cried harder. She didn't pull away. She didn't tell me to stop. She didn't judge me for breaking open. She just held my hand, quietly, gently. And in that moment, something inside me finally settled. The wound that had been open for years began to close, slowly, but surely. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't small. I wasn't overlooked. I was chosen. Seen. Cherished. Not because I demanded it. Not because I fought for it. But because someone who mattered saw the truth long before anyone else did. And now, everyone finally had to see it too. In the days that followed, life didn't magically fix itself, but something in the foundation shifted. The ground beneath me felt a little more solid, a little more mine. My grandmother's voice lingered in my mind like a soft echo, reminding me that love given quietly could still shake an entire room. The first night after the reading, my mother stayed with me. She slept on the couch even though I offered her my bed. When I woke up early the next morning, I found her standing in my kitchen making pancakes, the kind my grandmother used to make for me when I was little. She turned when she heard me. They might be burned, she said softly. I haven't made these in years. I laughed. They look perfect. We sat at the small table together, sharing a breakfast that tasted like nostalgia and healing. For the first time in a long while, she didn't fill the silence with criticism or corrections. She just sat with me. Present. Human. After breakfast, she reached for the letter again, touching the seal gently. Your grandmother, she said, she was always one step ahead of everyone. She was, I whispered. My mother traced her fingers along the edges. She didn't want you to struggle. She wanted you to stand on solid ground. And now I can, I said. She nodded. Yes. You can. Visiting the house a week later, I drove to Grandma's house alone. The place felt like a museum of memories, the swing on the porch, the flower pots she insisted on painting herself every spring, the kitchen window she always kept cracked open to let the house breathe. I opened the front door with the key she'd left me. The air smelled like lavender and old wood. A picture of us, me at 10 years old holding her hand, still sat on the sideboard. I picked it up gently. I hope I'm doing this right, I whispered to the empty room. Silence answered, but somehow it felt warm. I walked through each room slowly, remembering the stories she told me, the advice she whispered when she thought no one else was listening, the fierce softness she carried beneath her stern exterior. When I reached her bedroom, I found a small wooden box on the dresser. Inside was another letter, shorter, written in her familiar handwriting. Lily. This house is yours now. Fill it with laughter, tears, music, friends, silence, whatever you choose. But most of all, fill it with your life. Do not shrink to fit anyone's expectations. Love boldly. Be gentle boldly. Live boldly. You were meant to. Grandma, I pressed the letter to my chest, letting myself cry without shame or restraint. Grief, gratitude, love, they all collided inside me. I didn't realize how long I'd been standing there until I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see my mother leaning against the doorframe, watching me quietly. I thought you might come here, she said. You followed me? She smiled faintly. I wanted to make sure you weren't alone. Her voice wasn't controlling this time. It was caring. I wiped my eyes. I'm okay. I know, she whispered. I just didn't want you to read another one of her letters alone. She stepped inside the room slowly, like she was entering a sacred place. And maybe she was. She looked around. She kept things just like she always did. I nodded. She didn't like change. My mother exhaled. Maybe I should have been more like her. I turned to her. Maybe we both should have learned from her sooner. We stood there in that quiet room, breathing the same air, holding the same grief. For the first time in years, I felt like we were connected, not by blood or duty, but by understanding. She was right, you know, my mother said. About what? You being stronger than all of us. A small, sad smile. We just didn't see it. I didn't know what to say. Not at first. But then I stepped forward and hugged her. She stiffened slightly, then melted into the embrace, her arms wrapping around me in a way they never had before. Not hurried, not tense, not obligatory. Just real. A different kind of inheritance. Over the next few weeks, something changed quietly inside my family. Not dramatically. Not perfectly. But truth has a way of shifting things even when people resist. My brother invited me to lunch one afternoon. He didn't say much, but he said enough. I should have been there for Grandma, he admitted. I'm sorry you were the only one who showed up. And even though the words were clumsy, I knew they came from a place of sincerity. Jenna, on the other hand, took longer. Her anger wasn't really about the will, it was about losing the one advantage she always relied on, power. She still sent cold messages, still made sharp comments, still avoided real conversations. But she didn't challenge the will. She didn't drag me to court. She didn't escalate the fight. My grandmother's letter had done something none of us expected. It shut down every argument before it could begin. One evening, my mother and I sat in the living room sorting through old photo albums. She paused on a picture of me as a teenager, awkward, shy, standing behind everyone else in a family portrait. "You always stood in the back," she whispered. "I didn't want to be in the way." She shook her head slowly. "You never were. We just never made space for you." She turned the page and looked at another photo of Grandma holding my hand. "She made space," my mother said. "She did." My mother looked at me, eyes gentle. "And now I want to learn to do the same." It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And progress mattered. A quiet ending. A month after the court hearing, I moved into Grandma's house. It felt strange and beautiful at the same time, like stepping into a life she built for me long before I understood why. I repainted the walls. Replanted her garden. Kept the swing on the porch. Left her reading glasses on the side table. Not because I was living in the past. But because she was always part of my future. One evening, I stood in the backyard watching the sun set over the fence. My mother joined me, holding 2 cups of tea. "She'd be proud of you," she said softly. I smiled. "I hope so." "She would be," she whispered with conviction. "You were loyal to her in ways the rest of us weren't." She took a slow breath. "And I'm proud of you too." Her voice wavered. "I should have told you that sooner." My eyes stung again. "Thank you." We stood there together, watching the sky change colors. Breathing in. Breathing out. Finding a quiet peace neither of us expected to feel in this lifetime. My grandmother's inheritance had done more than give me property or money. It had restored parts of me I thought were lost. It had forced my family to confront the truth. It had rebuilt bridges I thought were burned. And it gave me the one thing I'd been missing my entire life, a place where I belonged. A place where my presence mattered. A place where my voice didn't disappear. A place built on love that never needed to be loud to be real. As the sky faded into dusk, I whispered, "Thank you, Grandma. For seeing me. For choosing me. For giving me a future that felt like my own." If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. More powerful stories are coming your way.